Yes, a lengthy statement coming out now from the Qatari government, and quick as well. I mean, this attack only happened a short time ago. They clearly had their words prepared, or have managed to get them out very quickly. We express the state of Qatar's strong condemnation of the attack at the Al Udeid airbase by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and consider it a flagrant violation of the state of Qatar's sovereignty and airspace, as well as international law and the United Nations Charter. We affirm that the state of Qatar reserves the right to respond directly in a manner proportional to the nature and scale of this blatant aggression and in accordance with international law. We're reassured that Qatari air defences thwarted the attack and successfully intercepted the Iranian missiles. The Ministry of Defence will issue a statement clarifying the circumstances of the attack later today. And it goes on to say, we also affirm that the continuation of such escalating military strikes will determine security and stability in the region and drag it into situations that will have disastrous repercussions for the international peace and security. We call for an immediate cessation of all military actions and a serious return to the negotiating table and dialogue. And specifically, Yalda, on the base, it said the base had been evacuated earlier in accordance with approved security and precautionary measures in light of the tensions currently prevailing in the region. All necessary measures were taken to ensure the safety of the base's personnel, including members of the Qatari Armed Forces, friendly forces and others. And no injuries or human losses have occurred as a result of the attack. So that there is a statement from the Qatari government, from the advisor to the Qatari Prime Minister, Dr. Majed Al-Ansari. I mean, that looks as though that Qatar is ready and prepared to respond. It also, though, crucially, looks as though this Iranian attack on the Qatari base, at least on the base just outside Doha, that there have not been any injuries or deaths, which will be obviously of great relief to the Americans, and I think to British and other forces as well. We haven't had confirmation that there are currently any British forces in that base. But over the course of 20 years since it's been operating, the British have had a significant presence at the base just outside Doha.
Yeah, Mark, and I just want to read a statement coming in from the Revolutionary Guard. They've said, following the blatant military aggression of the criminal regime of the United States of America against the peaceful nuclear facilities of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the clear violation of international law with the guidance of the Supreme National Security Council and the leadership of the central headquarters of the last prophet, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, with the sacred code of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, has targeted the Al Udeid base in Qatar with a devastating and powerful missile attack in Operation Besharat Fatah. This base is the headquarters of the Air Force and the largest strategic asset of the U.S. terrorist army in the West Asia region. So that is the Revolutionary Guard with their statement confirming this attack on these bases that they have described as Operation Annunciation. And Qatar, as you've said, condemns the Iranian attack on the U.S. military bases in Qatar. And from what we understand, there are also sirens going off in Kuwait and Bahrain. The airspace is closed in the UAE, and they're also on high alert. We understand from Reuters that Iran's top security body says the U.S. bases was far from urban facilities and residential areas in Qatar. So that is the Iranians sending a message to the Qataris that they were not hitting urban facilities and residential areas. This is not targeting Qatari citizens. This was going after the US bases, trying to, I guess, in some way de-escalate the situation after the Qataris said that they reserved the right to respond after the Iranian attack. And Qatar has confirmed that there are no casualties from the attack on the US military base. But in their statement, they've said that Qatar reserves its right to respond after the Iranian attack. We understand, though, Iran's top security body has said US bases, they were far from urban facilities and residential areas in Qatar. So in their own way, trying to de-escalate the situation. I'm just going to read you a statement from, as you say, Dr. Majid Al-Ansari, the advisor to the Qatari Prime Minister, and you read a bit of that for us, Mark. But he said, we express the state of Qatar's strong condemnation of the attack on Al Udeid Air Base by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and consider it a flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty and airspace, as well as of international law and the United Nations.
Stop trying to navigate a million travel sites. Use the Kayak app. Compare prices on your flights, stays, and car hire all in one place, so you get more time and budget to enjoy what you love, like snorkeling, dune driving, and skydiving. Kayak! Go see for yourself!
They thought you'd never find out. But now, they've been exposed. If you've ever taken out car finance, you could be owed thousands of pounds, and no one's going to tell you unless you check. Dealers and brokers were secretly taking big commissions, bumping up your payments without your consent. But now, the case was brought before Supreme Court in April, and it's anticipated that lenders will have to pay their secret commissions back plus interest. Most analysts suggest over 90% of finance deals had these hidden commissions. So yeah, chances are you're owed. It's outrageous they got away with this for years. But now you can do something about it. There's a free tool online. Takes under a minute to see if you're eligible. No calls, no hassle. Just straight answers. Still time to claim, but not sure for how long. Tap below and check now. Don't let them keep what's yours.
The right to be able to respond to this, we will see. It is true that the airbase is in quite an isolated area, well outside the city of Doha. It is, remember, where Donald Trump was just over a month ago, 5 weeks ago, I think, as part of his Middle East trip. He was there at the airbase. He travelled there to a rapturous welcome from the many, many troops who are based there, and he delivered what was effectively a kind of victory speech, a sort of campaign speech of the type we've seen so many times in America. Well, we saw him do it instead in the Middle East at this airbase, which has now been targeted. There's an update here from the Qatari Ministry of Defence, very similar to what the Qatari government is saying, but they are saying that the Qatari air defences successfully intercepted a missile attack at the Al Udeid Air Base. It goes on to say, thanks to God, the vigilance of the armed forces and the precautionary measures taken, the incident did not result in any deaths or injuries. The ministry reiterated that the airspace and territory of the state of Qatar are safe, and that the Qatari armed forces are always ready to deal with any threat. The Ministry of Defence advises citizens and residents to seek guidance and the latest developments from our official sources. That there is a statement from the Qatari Ministry of Defence. Yalda, what we don't know is what the consequence of what we believe was a similar attack at the American airbase in Iraq. We don't know what injuries or damage has occurred as a consequence of that, and we're closely watching any updates from the Iraqi government. But of course, the Iraqi government is not the Qatari government. You know, there are elements within the Iraqi government that are quite closely aligned with Iran. There are Iranian militia operating in and across Iraq as well. But we will see what detail we get of that attack too.
Yeah, Mark, I'm going to keep you there for a second because, as you say, Iraq is also on high alert and was struck. They've said maximum alert status declared. They've ordered and issued people to take shelter in bunkers at at Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq. That's according to military sources who've spoken to the Reuters news agency. And as you say, it wasn't just Qatar that was hit. The whole region is on edge, but also Iraq was hit. And I just want to bring in our Stuart Ramsey, who joins me now from northern Iraq, from Erbil, where there are a number of US bases. Stuart, we sort of anticipated when the United States hit the nuclear sites in Iran that this might happen. And here we are. We understand that the Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq has now been hit as well. But we don't, could you confirm that for us? Because we know in Qatar, the interceptors swung into action. I'm assuming the same thing happened in Iraq.
It's going to be, because that airbase, I mean, I've spent a long time there actually. It is absolutely huge as well. And as Iran was saying, it's also an area that's out in the middle of the desert, away from the civilian population. I can't confirm exactly what has happened there, but certainly the reports we're getting are that it has been under attack, but it will be well protected. It was the second biggest base for the Americans when the Gulf War took place. It is, as I say, absolutely huge. Interesting, it's in Anbar, it's in the west of the country. Now, that is a predominantly Sunni area. That was a huge problem for the United States after the Gulf War and the fighting that took place there. They have been there for a very long time now. We don't have any more details from that. We have been talking to our contacts in Baghdad, and Baghdad is saying that they believe that they too are about to come under attack. Now, that is from sources in the city, very reliable sources, but we don't know exactly what sort of attack they're talking about, what would be the target. There has been an expectation there that it could be the US Embassy, but we've got no more detail other than that. So the attacks have taken place, Yelda. We talked about it a lot, didn't we? The two biggest air bases, the one round the corner from me, relatively speaking, is quite small, and there are many other smaller ones. Maybe they're going for the big targets to make their point. Who knows? Will there be follow-ups? Who knows? Qatar is definitely saying that they have been able to defend that position. Obviously, I think Mark was making the point that this is a country that has every right to defend itself and may take an extremely dim view of what Iran has done. And certainly their initial reaction has been that it still maintains the right to react to the attacks. But they have taken place. I suppose we have to see where it goes next, particularly in Iraq, because we're just not getting the details from there yet as to whether it was a successful attack. We just simply don't know. All we know at the moment is that it appears that it was under attack. I would say that the United States government has made it clear in those press conferences after the big attacks that warnings were given to Iran and its proxies that if you attack us, we're going to come after you, and also that it's all its forces in the region, and there are at least 40,000 military personnel here. All of them were taking great care, and that there were a lot of protective systems being put in place. And I suppose we have to see whether those hold out, particularly in Iraq. We're just waiting for that detail to come. And in the background, is Baghdad going to be attacked as well? We just don't know, but that is certainly the feeling in the capital itself.
Yeah, absolutely. The entire region on high alert. Reports coming in of sirens blaring over Bahrain, Kuwait. The United Arab Emirates has closed its airspace. We've heard now and seen these images of the missiles that were launched over the skies of Qatar and the interceptor swinging into action. I was reporting earlier that this was coordinated from the conversations I was having with my sources, that this was a coordinated attack on the American airbase in Qatar with officials, the United States and Qatari officials. They were given advance notice that the attacks were coming to minimize casualties. That is now also being reported by the New York Times, that Iran coordinated the attacks alongside Qatari officials and gave advance notice to minimize casualties. Qatar has confirmed that there were no casualties following this attack, although we did hear a slight escalation in the language from the Qataris. They said that they reserved the right to respond to such an attack after the Iranians launched those missiles over the Qatari airspace. But from what we understand, Qatar has said that no casualties from the attack on the US military base. Iran's top security body also put out a statement saying that the armed forces used the same number of bombs that the US had used in attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. We're just getting some more images now coming from Doha, the capital of Qatar, and you can see those missiles and interceptors over the skies of the Qatari capital. Qatar is an incredibly safe and secure place. They house and hold a number of US bases. The Central Command headquarters is in Qatar, and from what we understand, the Al Udeid Air Base was on high alert from about noon yesterday when, from what we know, there was this agreement, a coordinated attack would be launched. The Iranians want to, at this point, save face. They said they would retaliate. They've used quite severe language over the course of the last 24 hours after Donald Trump ordered those strikes on their 3 nuclear facilities, Natanz, Fordow and Isfahan. Donald Trump said that those facilities had been completely destroyed. That was disputed by the Iranians. The Israelis have come out since then and said there's been heavy damage, but more work needs to be done. We're still waiting for the battle damage assessment, the BDA, to come out, and that will come out over the course of the next few days. But Iran had vowed that it would retaliate, it would respond, and we are now seeing this retaliation, although it is a coordinated retaliation. We're seeing those interceptors swinging into action. The target of these were US bases, and we understand that a base in Iraq was targeted, as well as this base in Qatar, and we just heard there from our Stuart Ramsey that the interceptors swung into action, did what they needed to do, but there is concern about the capital of Iraq, Baghdad, according to some reports, credible reports, as he said, coming out that Baghdad may be the next target. No doubt over the course of the next few days, this region will be on high alert, but there is fear that this could escalate and spill over across the region. So from what we understand in conversations that I've had with officials from across the region and here in Israel, these were coordinated attacks to minimize casualties, because the last thing the US president wants to see is body bags returning to the United States. And I just want to bring back in our Mark Stone, who's watching and listening. And Mark, we understand the president is in the Situation Room. I guess there are a lot of ifs. These may be coordinated and these conversations may be being had behind the scenes. But it's difficult to know what an unpredictable president is likely to do. The interceptors have swung into action. He has said to the Iranians, don't retaliate. At present, there are no casualties, but it does feel like all sides are currently taking massive amounts of risks, and in some ways playing with fire. But on the other hand, it may be that both sides say, OK, enough. You've done what you needed to do. We've now responded. Let's try and call for a ceasefire. We just don't know what's on the table at the moment.
But what we do know, Yalda, is that Donald Trump will have been told that this would happen. He will have been told over the course of the past week or so, if you do this, if you strike Iran, as he did on Saturday night, there will be a response, regardless of what you say publicly. And we heard him say in that statement, the address to the nation, Iran must not strike back. He knew that they would. The question is, what impact did that strike back have? And now in Qatar, it looks as though it's had no impact, no injuries, no deaths. Clearly a very positive thing. What we don't yet know is what the impact is in other areas, the Al-Assad air base in Iraq. That will become clear. All we can do, I mean, you're right, he is a very unpredictable president. He might decide that just the fact that they have struck back, have fired back, is enough for him to fire back again. I doubt that that will be the case. He does not want to be dragged in. He saw the weekend as a quick in and out, one attack, one night of attacks by America, and then that's it as far as he's concerned. So I would be surprised if, assuming there are no injuries and no deaths, that he responds again. And we can look to history. You only have to go back to 2020 after when the Iranians last hit an American airbase. It was the same one in Iraq, al-Assad, and no one died, but quite a few American soldiers were injured. I think 30 or so American soldiers ended up with what's known as traumatic brain injury from having been near the blast site in that attack in 2020. They were evacuated. In fact, one of them tragically later committed suicide as a consequence of what happened. But at the time, there were no American deaths. Now, Donald Trump's reaction after that was nothing's happened, line drawn underneath. And the situation was calmed. Let's see how he reacts to this situation. We know that he is in the situation room now, and he will have a much clearer idea than we do of the extent of the damage, both at the Al Udeid airbase and the Al Assad airbase in Iraq.